Hey, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Publish and Prosper,
where publishing, technology, and marketing collide.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Publish and Prosper. And today I am lucky enough to be joined by a special guest co-host. Welcome back, Chelsea, for those of you that are listening and not watching.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Chelsea is returning for secretly her third time, except
Yes.
one of those episodes is lost forever.
Subscribe to our Patreon to see the unreleased episode that I did, unfortunately.
I still have those files. They do still exist.
Don't threaten me.
But we are excited to have her back to talk about YouTube and
That's right.
showing up effectively and authentically on YouTube.
Yes, yes.
For those of you that are watching on our YouTube channel, you might recognize Chelsea.
Like and subscribe.
And for those of you that are listening but have ever looked at our YouTube channel, you would also probably recognize Chelsea as the face of our Lulu videos and so many of our webinars and live virtual sessions and so on and so forth.
Yes, that's true. Correct so far.
Nailed it. Way back in January, I think, Matt and I did an episode together that was on using social media to sell your books. It was a terrible mix of a pretty good episode, but also the audio is completely messed up on it. So it's sorry to anybody that suffered their way through that one. But one of the things that we talked about in there was like briefly touching on YouTube and saying that we thought that YouTube was just such a different frontier and kind of just like a totally different beast to what we think of as social media.
Yeah.
That like it didn't really make sense to include that in that conversation.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about this earlier, and you might remember this, but there was a time at Lulu where social media for us included YouTube. And so I don't know if when you were social media managing, if you kind of reported on it, but there was a time where the social media manager was kind of, or even our videographer and editor, she was kind of, keeping a watch on it. And it was funny because I was looking back through some of the comments that we had and just some of the older videos, and we weren't even responding to comments, and we were just approaching it really differently and just kind of as just another piece of social media. But in the past several years, as you said, we've realized it's a complete standalone channel and it has to be treated that way. And there's just different ways to think about it and approach it. And it can be its own kind of conduit for your business and another way for you to reach your goals if you can view it that way instead of sort of bunching it under the social media heading.
Yeah. So, Matt and I could have done this episode months ago and talked about YouTube, but I thought, why not bring our in-house YouTube expert in to talk about it instead?
You guys could have done a reaction podcast and just watch my videos and then critique them and see what I'm doing and not doing.
I have actually talked to Paul about doing an episode that's not that. It's I'd throw myself under the bus instead. And it would just be Paul comes on and reacts to / corrects all the things that Matt and I have said wrong or that he disagrees with over the course of like 20 episodes.
When Paul's ready for his career move, that's when he should do that.
And that's his way out the door.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. But I mean, when you have, of course, when you're on camera, when you've done a lot of stuff and when you start building a catalog of content, I mean, anyway, you can do that for anything. But yeah, with video, it's just definitely more in your face when you do things well or when you mess up or, obviously if we're talking about when you have like a bad hair day or, whatever's going on with you, the camera doesn't lie. It can, but it also captures a lot of stuff you might not want to do.
It really does. But I do think that is a big part of the experience of video versus some of the other mediums that people share content in and that level of like showing up authentically, showing up as representation of a brand, but still like, I mean, Matt and I have talked about this. This is a Lulu podcast, but we're still ourselves on here. Like we're still for better or worse, we are pretty much as close to ourselves as we can be without the podcast getting taken down. So.
Well, yes, we did say that, I know Matt is a bit more soft-spoken on the podcast. Unfortunately, for some of the commenters on our YouTube channel, this is my actual voice all the time, and I don't just put on an annoying voice for our YouTube videos. But yeah, YouTube is its own thing, and the beauty of it is being able to show up, and there are different degrees of how to show up. But I think for individual creators and authors, people really crave the authenticity that you can bring and seeing that you're a real person. More and more with AI being a part of the conversation, and there's places that you can use it to improve your craft and cut out some of the time that takes you to do video work or any other work. But I think where you kind of want to leave that out of the equation is when you are writing your scripts, or your outlines, or showing up, and even leaving in some of the outtakes, some of the imperfections. You don't have to watch that much Lulu to see examples of me messing up. We have a great editor, so sometimes she'll leave stuff in. Thankfully for everyone who ever watches, she cuts a lot of it out. But sometimes it's good to leave that in because we're all regular people and it's not perfect. And it's funny because when I was watching some of our older Lulu videos, and in those, I really just showed up, read the script and tried to get out. And I tried to be personable and, whatever. But now I really try to just have an outline more so than a script, so I can know the points I'm trying to get across, but so I can also, like you said, inject your personality and, build that relationship with the audience, because at the end of the day, you kind of want it to be a place to build community and connect with people who are looking for that information.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think that YouTube is different from social media, whether that's in terms of the type of content or how you approach it or how the audience approaches it? Where do you see the difference?
I think obviously, as you said, it can be a part of your distribution channel and it can play several different roles in your overall marketing strategy, but it's really a place for you to show your personality, show more in-depth content, spend more time with the audience. And I think the community building is one of the biggest aspects, and you can argue that any social media channel allows you to do that. But really in YouTube, it gives you the ability to create a fandom. Mm-hmm. And that is so, brands chase that because it's just so, if you can get people to feel that for your brand or your company or whatever, your books, your characters, that fandom, that they're a part of something, then that's huge and such a powerful way for you to build those relationships and build that brand. And I just think YouTube is really well suited for that. Because you have this mix of content that you can put out, there's so much that you can do there. And then obviously with the built-in commentary and then other creators that are on the platform that you can collaborate with. So, for me, we look to YouTube for discoverability because, I think it's the second, I think I wrote this somewhere, but Google owns YouTube. It's the second most visited website on the internet. So it can give you access to so many communities that you may not have. And this is a statistic, but I also do this personally. When I'm searching for something, whether it be a review or earlier we were talking about using, Adobe Premiere, when I want to learn how to use that, I will go to YouTube to figure out how. Or if I want to buy a new product, I will go to YouTube to see who's bought it and who's reviewing it. And a lot of people, especially younger folks, that is, their search engine is going to YouTube. So it's a huge opportunity for discoverability. And I think gives you that kind of range to play around with short form content and long form content all in one place, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's almost a microcosm of all different social media platforms together. YouTube is kind of doing a little bit of what everybody is doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that people don't even realize necessarily. There were so many parts of YouTube that I didn't realize. The community building stuff and the comment threads and live videos, and the fact that live videos have people that are regularly in the chat, just hanging out. And there's regulars that come join a live every Monday night. And there is that community element to it. And even the difference between shorts and longer form channel videos and stuff like that. There is a lot of what all the different social channels are doing right now, YouTube is kind of doing them all together.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because like you said, I mean, there's the different forms of content, whether it be shorts or long form content, live videos. You can also post, just do static posts and do polls for your audience. It's definitely its own little ecosystem. And then the analytics. I mean, you and I have talked about this, but the analytics are so in depth and so powerful. So you can learn so much about how your content is being discovered, who's watching it, what's working. Obviously, just from the basics of subscriber counts all the way to when people are dropping off, the most engaged point, what's being shared, what people are liking. So it can tell you, if you are in a place where you're just starting out, then it can give you so much insight into what you're doing that's working and then what to lean into as you kind of start to build your brand and that video content.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's also, not just from the creator perspective, but from the audience perspective, YouTube kind of has its own expectations and like what people are interested in and what they're going to YouTube for.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of a really big distinction between YouTube and a lot of the other social channels, whether like they're coming to you for recurring content or they're coming to you for educational content. Like they have a different kind of set of expectations of what they're looking for, what they're willing to not forgive, but like you were saying earlier with like, you don't have to be perfect on camera.
I hope all of our viewers have forgiveness for me. It's like the stuff that I'm doing on our channel. Yeah.
But I think that that's kind of like allowed for. And I think even something like TikTok, like you don't have to be perfect on TikTok. People are doing that content. They're editing it on their phones, in one take, not doing whatever. But because the length of the content is generally shorter on there, you don't really have the room or grace for wasted time in a video.
Right.
And on YouTube, I think people are a lot more like they're not expecting the short, fast cuts from clip to clip to clip to clip because we're trying to get it in a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Like they're down for the longer, thank God, because Matt and I can't end a sentence to save our lives.
Well, and you can watch at double speed, so it's user's choice. But to your point, I mean, yeah, but there are also so many ways to interact with YouTube because you can do if you're doing really well on TikTok or short form, and again, YouTube will tell you if you put short content live or just regular videos, YouTube will tell you what your audience is watching the most. And for a long time, ours was just, we were really just doing the Lulu U videos. And so when we started doing shorts, most of our audience wasn't watching shorts. And then now it's a better mix and with the podcast as well. So you can really see. But if you are just doing the short form, and there are some creators on YouTube that are very popular that just do shorts. I mean, they may be able to do some longer videos, but the majority of it is that short. And you train your audience on what content you're going to create. So if you start to put out longer videos, then that's what they're going to expect, and that's what they want from you. Hopefully the feedback is they do, then you can keep doing that. And if you notice that shorts are taking off and then you pause the longer form and you lean into shorts, then you can do that as well. So I mean, you as the creator, you have to know your audience, and you have to see those signals or look for those signals, and then you can kind of decide how to use YouTube to best support your goals and your brand, Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting ways that I've seen people, even like creators that I've seen on TikTok, that I've seen them more and more lately doing. Like TikTok is the minute long version of the video, and then if you want the full video or the expanded video, like technically the minute long still gets the job done. It's short and sweet and gets to the point.
Yes.
But if you go to their YouTube channel, there's a 15-minute version of that 1 minute video.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting kind of discoverability and funnel.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Tool,
yeah.
Which, is kind of cool. And also, I mean, we've talked about this in the past. Nobody should be putting all their eggs in one basket right now, especially a basket like TikTok, which
spread your eggs out.
Yeah.
Make your users do an Easter egg hunt for all of your eggs.
Why not?
When they're spread out. But for the short form, the discoverability and the funnel. And I was wondering how far I could get into this before I said flywheel. So how many marketing terms can we throw in here? But so if you are thinking about YouTube, and the last episode we did, I think we talked kind of more about like starting it, and if you are kind of getting over that imposter syndrome, because and again, faceless faceless channels are a thing. So it's not, if you are someone who is more introverted or shy, you can test that out. And there are some that have huge success that way as well. But starting out, like every piece of content that you put out can be repurposed for something else. What we're doing right now, I know that whenever this comes out, a couple of days later, you're going to say, hey, this is the short for this. And like you said, hopefully that short encapsulates the main point that we're getting across, but then also leaves enough there that somebody would say, okay, well, yeah, that's a good point. What else are they saying? Hopefully that's the goal. And the same with our YouTube, our other Lulu University content. I try to go through and break down, and unfortunately for the audience, I do have to cut out some of my hilarious jokes, but, or fortunately for the audience, but, but you try to boil it down because there are people, everyone kind of digests content in different ways. And so the great thing about YouTube is even if you do have that audience who wants to see, I want in 1 to 3 minutes, I want to get it all, or I have an hour to spend, so I want to hear the whole thing, or, somewhere in between. So you can create one piece of content and then kind of edit it and, truncate it or elongate it to fit each of those kind of groups and what they're looking for, which is great. Yeah.
How do you approach that differently? Or what's your process for how you approach creating like a Lulu video?
Well, the biggest thing, and some of the okay, so obviously everything is pretty relevant and has to do with Lulu. Sometimes we'll talk about more general like marketing things, and I mean, I always hope that our content, even if you aren't a Lulu user yet, we hope that we can get you to our side. But if you're not, I hope that you will glean something from it that you can use that will improve your author career, your creator business, your publishing business, your entrepreneurship. So I try to do that. But really, I want you and I try to keep it short. I mean, I think one that we just put out was like 7 minutes. And so sometimes you can only kind of make it so brief without taking away all the value. But I really want you somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes to be able to understand a concept and take action on whatever the topic was. So that's sort of always my goal, is to make it entertaining as possible, make it as straightforward as possible, make it authentic as possible. I do try to go, like I was saying, more of an outline now than a word for word script, because that gives me more room to sort of add my feelings or anecdotes and make it more approachable. That's kind of the goal. So yeah, I'm thinking, all right, here's this big concept for someone who's new to this. How can I express this in a way that in 5 to 7 minutes, they're thinking, okay, I know what my next step needs to be to act on this. Because at the end of the day, our YouTube channel really serves as authority building, credibility, relationship building. We want people to know that we're real people and that these are things that we think are helpful, and that it's educational. We want you to see this and then be able to make better decisions about your business after seeing it.
Matt and I have said that before, and we'll say it again. That's always kind of our goal with this podcast, is that Lulu is a secondary factor in it. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, we would love for you to use Lulu.
We do like Lulu. Let's get that. Yeah, just to be clear, we think Lulu is great.
We're not sending you anywhere else. But if I had somebody say to me, like, hey, your podcast was really helpful, I learned something new from it. I'm not a Lulu author, or I'm not publishing a book, or I'm not there yet, mm-hmm. but like I still learned something interesting and cool from your podcast. Like, I'd count that as a win.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great point, because another thing that so if you are, again, in that starting out point, I would say I would discourage anyone, I would encourage you to just understand that it can be a long game, and just like anything. But if you are, regardless of the content that you're putting out, how-to videos, educational videos, reviews, these are all super popular content for YouTube. So if you are looking at YouTube as a funnel for your business, it should be part of a bigger strategy, but also it can plant a seed that you don't really reap for, a couple years. And we know this so well at Lulu because we've talked to so many people. There are conferences and events that I've gone to. We've been at Lulu for about 9 years now. So there are conferences that I went to in the beginning, and, one day, a couple years later, maybe you'll get an email from that person, or they'll act on that, because writing, any creative endeavor can be really time consuming. And so you have to kind of understand that the great thing about YouTube is that content is going to live forever as long as you'll leave it up there. And you can reap the benefits of good content months, years later after you put it out there. So to your point, it's like people may watch it and they may say, well, I'm not ready yet, or I'm not at the point to use this information. But when they go to act, they'll say, oh, what was that podcast that I listened to? Or what was that video? Oh, well, it was Lulu. Well, what is Lulu? And then maybe we'll take that path to, looking at your website or booking a call with you or just subscribing to your channel to learn more. So that's another really important piece of it. And a great thing about it is that as you continue to create content, just knowing that, a video that you did a year ago could see a boost because someone else talks about it, or because that topic comes back in vogue, or it just kind of continues to gain traction as it is live on your channel.
I was watching a podcast recently that was a live podcast, and the guest on it was Katie Fox, who is, I think she's the director of marketing at Ecamm. She works at Ecamm, and she is also a creator independently of that. And she was telling a story about how she had gone live recently. She was doing a challenge that was like 7 days straight, like go live every day for 7 days.
Wow.
And one of the times that she went live, literally nobody joined the live. Like it was just her talking to herself.
Yep.
But even then, that live video does still publish to your page when you're done with it. And she got feedback from people after the fact that were like, hey, I wasn't able to make it live, but something you said in that video, when I watched it back later, like it really spoke to me and it really resonated with me. And that was like, I don't think she even had a purpose in that. Like she was just like, I'm doing my daily live. Like I'm just kind of up here yapping and see what happens. And it struck a chord with somebody, and it resonated, it helped somebody. And I think that's something that's really, really invaluable with YouTube content, whether it's short form or long form or whatever it is that content is pretty much as evergreen as it gets on internet these days. Yeah. On any form of the internet these days. And like, you never know when something that you created, whether it's a week ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, is going to be exactly what somebody needed in the moment that they found it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting. There's a couple of things that you said that I kind of wanted to pick up on, and I feel for her because there's definitely been webinars that you show up to and there aren't that many people. But it's like, if you've gone to a concert and there's like not a ton of people there, but the band still like plays like their heart out, and it's just like the best experience ever. So I think that there's a lesson in there about just showing up and doing your best, because even like you just said, like on YouTube, even if you do a live and you don't get the numbers that you wanted, that the shelf life of that is indefinite. Yep. So, I mean, it can be discovered and rediscovered and can find the right audience when, at maybe an unexpected time. And the other piece of that is consistency. So showing up on a regular basis. This is a best practice for any social media channel, an email campaign, any way that you want to put your brand forward. There should be some sort of schedule to it. But on YouTube, coming up with a consistent schedule. And I think when you say that, people kind of immediately think, well, okay, so every week or a couple times a week, every day. It doesn't have to be that. I mean, there are some very popular creators that publish once a month. And again, it kind of goes back to training your audience so they know what to expect from you. If you're putting out, the better your content is, the longer your audience is willing to wait for it, because they know that you are doing the work to do the research or make sure the editing is great or really polish the product. But again, if you are doing the more maybe short form content or more relaxed or raw, for lack of a better term, content, then maybe you're doing a short every day. But making sure that you are consistent with what you're doing so that your audience knows this person is investing in themselves and they're investing in the content that they're putting up. So I know when to show up and I'm investing in it. I mean, make it worth their while to tune in. So yeah, I mean, even if you're not, because, it's usually not overnight. I mean, it does happen, but it kind of goes back to the long tail thing. But showing up consistently and like playing for the room, even if it's, empty, making sure you're doing the best that you can. Which is coming back to, I think, the showing up authentically part too. One of my favorite YouTube channels is Defunct Land. Oh yeah,
Fantastic. Obviously, it's the theme park content,
right? Yeah.
Because I am nothing if not predictable. But it's a really interesting channel. And the creator used to do more frequent content that was shorter, still like 15, 20-minute videos, but generally like comparatively shorter to what he's doing now. And he's now posting way less frequently. Like it's like 1 or 2 videos a year.
Yeah.
But the videos that do come out are like 2-hour deep dives that are so thoroughly researched that you're like, I'm pretty sure the person that created this theme park didn't even know as much about it as Kevin Perjurer does. Like, this is crazy.
And well, let me ask you, and did he communicate at all that like, hey guys, I'm going to switch up my style a little bit, or did he just kind of change the publishing schedule?
That's a great question. I'm sure he did communicate that to his audience in some way or another. But because he has kind of dug in on like, this is the content that I'm promising. So consistency, not of posting, but consistency of quality and consistency of like, that when it comes from me, it's going to be something that's thoroughly researched, well produced, and it's going to be some insane niche deep dive into something you didn't even know you were interested in.
Yes.
And suddenly you're watching a 90-minute episode about how ride queues work and about the psychology behind different styles of lines and switchbacks versus separate rooms, and this is how they've and I didn't know I needed to know all that, but now I do.
Yeah.
But I think that is something that like, that's like, he has his brand and he shows up authentically within it, and he says, you're gonna get less content from me, but it's gonna be the same consistent high quality what you would expect from me. And now it's like a treat. If I open YouTube and I see suddenly there's a new Defunctland video on my like subscribe page, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What a great day.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's a strategy as well. And the reason that I asked that was because with YouTube, you can, and I have seen creators do this where they decide to change up their publishing schedule, and you can communicate that through, because again, there's so many ways to share content on YouTube that you may not have thought of, but I've seen creators do a post where they say, hey, this month is taking me longer to do this video. Or I want to make sure I'm going to go deep dives now, and all my videos are going to be a little bit longer. So you can expect them at different intervals. And so there are those ways to communicate. And then, if you do that, it's kind of more of like a scarcity tactic where your audience has to kind of watch it then, or they're so looking forward to it because you do put it out on a less frequent basis. So then you can kind of drive traffic and engagement by doing it that way. So there are a lot of ways that you can mold YouTube to your audience and the content that you're making, whether you want to do short, funny skits, whether you want to do deep dives into things. And then I was going to also mention niching down. I know y'all talked about this so much, but YouTube is so perfect for this because literally anything that you think you want to learn about or watch or look at, you can find people who have grown and created channels based around that. One thing that I had been looking up recently on YouTube, again, I need to learn something new. I'm going to go to YouTube to figure it out. Gardening. I wanted to plant a garden, do a raised bed, and just finding these channels that I would have never heard about. And some of them have millions of views just talking about urban gardening or how to do just raised bed gardening or just, shaded garden. I mean, it can just get so insanely niche when any topic you take, there's so many layers to it. So if you're thinking of doing YouTube, and really if you're just trying to do best practices and really stack the deck in your favor, think about what you want to talk about and then just see how deep you can go into that and really kind of carve out your own lane. And of course, do research and see what else is out there and what is successful. But there's just some channels like my in-laws really love, my father-in-law really loves this guy who just like feeds raccoons hot dogs. I mean, that's his thing. And this guy is like hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of views feeding hot dogs to raccoons. I mean, so that could be you out there, listener. If you've ever thought about feeding processed foods to wild animals, that could be your niche.
That could be it.
What
more could you want?
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's absolutely, there are so many different ways that you could approach that when it comes to your content. It's one of the great things about the analytics we talked about a little bit on YouTube that you can really they're probably, I would argue, the most robust analytics of any of these social
it's great
platforms that
a bit overwhelming too, but yes. Great. Yeah,
because it could be very easy to go down the rabbit hole of yes, I want to find out the exact second of every single episode I've posted that people stopped watching.
Yes.
And now I'm going to overthink whether or not they did, and where did they come from, and where did they, where are people coming from here, should I optimize this? It's very easy to go spiral into that in a bad way. Mm-hmm. But it can also be a great way for you to look at it and say, oh, a bunch of people came to this video from Google search. Mm-hmm. We were talking before we started recording about looking up tutorial videos to teach ourselves how to use Premiere Pro.
Yep.
And which is something that I will Google constantly. How do I add a running scroll across the bottom? If I'm trying to do something on Premiere, I will Google how to do this specific thing. And because of the discoverability between Google and YouTube, Google will give you a search result that is timestamped to the exact moment of the video that it talks about.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
So if you see in your analytics that you're getting a bunch of people from Google search that are coming to this timestamp in your video, hey, there's your next piece of content.
Oh, yeah.
Is a deeper dive into that. Or maybe your next piece of content is a short form video that is just focusing on that piece of content. Or maybe it's a blog post that is a step-by-step on what people are talking about there. And that can inform not just your niche, your content strategy, your channel strategy, but where you go from here. Mm-hmm. And I think there are a lot of different ways that whether you're doing short form, long form, video, whatever you're doing there, you can use that to really propel yourself forward.
Yeah. And I think, we've talked a lot about strategy and analytics and, brand building, but also I kind of just want to say or underline, it can also be just a fun experiment. I mean, it doesn't have to be, your marketing strategy or your, again, spread your eggs out, all that. But it doesn't have to be just okay, well, let me look at the analytics. And if it's not this and not this, I mean, it can just be a fun thing. And again, going back to the authenticity, I think that's what people really relate to and gravitate towards. And there, so many channels. If you have a channel that you are a fan of, go back and look at their first video or their early videos, and they're going to be so different. And you have to just kind of, people say start before you're ready and just kind of put it out there and just get comfortable with it, start learning things on your own. You can always change and you can always pivot and you can always, decide to keep going or stop if it's not working for you. But it can be a fun endeavor. And if it's something that you enjoy, play around with it. I mean, you don't have to be beholden to metrics or numbers just because we like to geek out on stuff like that and maybe monetarily incentivized to do so. But I mean, it can be, and all of social media can be this, and all of your writing can be this. It's just an experiment in what is working for you and what and what people are connecting with, and just kind of finding your voice as well, because you can start a YouTube channel with your phone and good intentions. So
yeah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely you can. And I do think it's a great playground, honestly, whether it's a great place to experiment with, maybe you want to branch out into a different genre of writing and you want to try, just getting those ideas out there and talking to people about it. Or maybe you are still trying to figure out your voice for something. I've said this before, and I will likely say it again on this podcast. 3 years ago, if you told me that I would be this comfortable with public speaking, with speaking on video on a podcast, with live, doing live video or anything like that, I would have laughed in your face. Absolutely not. The thought of doing this was stomach churning to me for most of my life. And I've gotten so much more comfortable with it just from kind of having that freedom and flexibility of like, all right, we're going to try this. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it helped that I didn't have a choice. Matt was like, you're doing this. Let's go.
That helps.
It helps to have somebody behind you being like, no, you don't have a choice. You're doing it whether you want to or not. So get comfortable with it. Thanks, Matt. You're a great boss.
Right. Yeah. We love you, Matt.
But yeah, I think it is really a good like space to kind of figure things out and see, you know, it's a different form of it's a great writing practice.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and then also, you know, we were talking about this before we started, but the skills that you will learn in the process of creating video content or showing up on camera and just building, you know, just creating the YouTube channel. I mean, if you just going through the process of logging in or creating an account and uploading a video and figuring out how to edit it and do the descriptions and learning the analytics, these are all skills that you now have that will certainly help you for whatever the next thing is. Like if you are really trying to grow a brand or grow an audience, it's not going to hurt you to go through the process. And again, even if at the end of the day, and I mean, I would say, you know, give yourself time to fail forward and learn things and do all that. But of course I wish you success, but give yourself time to really play around with it. And then if ultimately you decide, you know what, actually I'd rather do audio or I would rather just write and do blogs or a newsletter, then, I mean, these are still skills that you have, that you've learned this and you've fine-tuned your craft. You've learned that your voice is better, you know, in a different medium, and that's incredibly valuable as well. So even if it's something that you don't stick with or you feel like it's not really advantageous to you in the direction you're going, you still have a new skill set. I mean, maybe it's editing videos or, again, just being able to concisely express yourself or connect with your audience better or just know more about what your audience wants from you. That's pretty invaluable.
It's a really interesting way to practice craft too, I think. I think that's one of the things that I've noticed in the last few years is like I do outlines for these episodes. You know, Matt has always pushed me to make the outlines shorter and shorter. It's something I'm still working on. But it is like, you know, kind of giving me the push to be more concise with how I outline things, but also with how I view the overall structure in general. And it's, you know, especially from somebody with a writing background, I don't have to put everything in the outline. I can be more like, we're going to storyboard this. We're going to just kind of lay things out, like high level looks and talk through it from there. But then on the flip side, there are absolutely like, I'll be going through and editing episodes later, and especially like when I'm editing the transcript and stuff, and I'm like, I swear to God, I'm well educated. Like, I swear to God, I am a literate, well educated person with a master's in creative
English
writing.
is my first language.
It's my first and only language.
Quite familiar with it, despite what I may say.
Yeah. So there are definitely some things that I've learned, like I can be a little looser with this structure and the crafting of this. And then there are some things that I'm like, maybe that topic is better suited to a blog post and not a podcast or a video or something, because I do need the opportunity to polish the content a little bit more and not just have it be off the cuff.
And you don't know until you try.
Yeah.
I mean, and there, again, with the YouTube videos that we do or the Lulu, there are some that are quite technical. Like when I'm doing videos about the API, there's not a ton of room to like, you know, goof off because it's really just pretty straightforward, like with what I need to get across. And so that's just, it needs to be what it is. And then sometimes when we're talking about things that are more maybe marketing focused or aren't specific platform, like what I know the users coming here, like if we did a video, for example, on our cover creator, if you're coming to that video, it's because you want to know how to use our cover creator. It's not because you want to hear a funny anecdote about my grandmother. You know what I mean? So you have to figure out what is the right way to deliver that. And you don't know until you kind of try it out. And you're the great thing about YouTube and the internet in general is you will be humbled almost immediately. And your audience will tell you, hey, you know, why are you, stop rambling. Tell me, I came to this video to learn what the title said. You didn't deliver on that. Yeah. And so that's kind of another thing to just consider is like, if you are creating whatever content you're creating, whatever you title it, just make sure you are delivering what you say you're going to deliver. And that's goes with the trust part of it as well. And that's another huge piece of building an audience is, they're not going to keep returning to your content if your title says how to use Lulu's cover creator, and then it's 12 minutes of me rambling about like why I can't get out of bed in the mornings or whatever. Which is not a struggle that I have at all.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes getting out of bed is harder than using the cover creator.
Oh, 100% it is. Great segue. Always be closing. Always be closing. There's not many things that are easier to use than the Lulu cover creator. Like and subscribe.
Video linked in the show notes.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I do think that's a really good point. And even just talking about the distinction between different pieces of content, because we do have, we've talked a lot about the Lulu University videos that we have on here and shorts on the YouTube channel, but we also have a bunch of tutorial videos, and those are I'm assuming you take a different approach to those because those are much more straightforward, scripted, like there's no jokes, there's no like we're getting straight to the point.
No lulls. Yeah, I mean LOL is not like LULLs, but neither we get to the point. But yeah, because you have different audiences and you have different people coming to your channel for different things. So again, because we are working on behalf of Lulu, there's different kind of audiences we're trying to appeal to. There are people that it's like midnight and you're just uploading your file and you just need to know like what's going on. What are these errors I'm getting? And like, how do I get through this? Or I want to connect my Shopify store to my Lulu account. Like, I just need to know exactly how to do this. And so we want to provide that. And then we also want to provide through the Lulu Use, through the podcast, also more conversational opportunities for you to learn this content. But again, also hopefully it's a bit entertaining and more personable than just, but that's kind of the beauty of it, is that we can hit all of these. If you just want to get in and out and you're trying to find a specific solution, we want to cover you there. If you are just maybe trying to find some general information about something, a more broad topic, then we want to provide that as well. So we really try to kind of cover our bases. And that's kind of outside of the shorts. And then the shorts come in as a completely different piece of that, where, that kind of is a middle ground.
Yeah. Yeah. To go back to the point about Lulu, like we're doing this for Lulu, we're doing this on behalf of Lulu, we're speaking to different audiences, we have different intent and different content that we're doing there. Do you find it difficult to show up authentically as like the face of a brand? I
am a bit odd, maybe. I'm sure there are people that can relate to this, but I was always really comfortable just looking into a camera and talking because it's just you're by yourself. I mean, and Ashley was our videographer then. My husband is doing it now, which is at times more comfortable, at times less, because he'll kind of come in and be like, hey, cut it. You're good here. So it was different, but I never really had a hard time with that. So I always felt very comfortable doing that. And so it was easy for me. But if you look back at those older videos, it is, again, like it was very scripted. And I was really just trying to memorize lines and get them out in a personable way rather, but just stick to the script. And I felt like that was a bit, what's the word? A bit rigid, I guess. And so now I really just try to have beats for like, here's the core message I'm trying to get across. Here's what I'm trying to express and explain, and then give myself more room to really just connect with our audience and, again, share my experience when it's relevant or share personal anecdotes and just kind of make it feel more, as much as I can, like you're talking to a friend and not like you're, talking to a spokesperson. And I think, and that's not unusual. I mean, more and more businesses are going that way where you are trying to be more relaxed and relatable. But it's like you were saying earlier, even though we are representing Lulu and happy and fortunate to do that, we have a lot of leeway. Yep. We are given so much room to be authentic because I think that we know inherently as individuals and as marketers that you kind of want to hear from a friend how to do something, or someone that you can trust and you feel is a real person. And so that's been probably the biggest shift in how we do Lulu videos is now I really try not to stick so rigidly to a script, but really just think, well, how would I explain this to, a friend or someone that, I love or care about? How would I want them to understand and hear this? And how would I tell it to them? Because I think and I've heard that, like, people say, like, when you are doing your videos or, act like you're talking to your best friend. And then, hopefully that'll make it, depending on how crass you are, hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier for you to really connect and come through and let your personality shine, which is, I really think, the biggest piece of building that audience and creating that sort of community aspect.
Yeah. The reason that a content creator that isn't already using YouTube would want to, especially an author. If anyone is still listening, if anyone has gotten this far into this episode that is fiction author, thank you, first of all, but a fiction author that's like, cool, YouTube is not relevant to fiction authors. I would strongly disagree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of really cool content that you as a fiction author could use YouTube to create and share.
Absolutely.
But the benefit of it and the main argument for doing this type of content is that authority building, but trust in a trust way, and in a saying like, hey, I am a real person. Like I am, whether it's because we live in this age of AI where people are constantly worried about the authenticity behind things, or just in a, sometimes it's nice to be reminded that the people that you're speaking to at a business are actual people.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Like, this is not like when somebody replies to a comment on our YouTube channel, it's not a bot replying to the comment on the YouTube channel. It's Chelsea.
No, it's me. 100%. It's me. I see all of the comments, all of them, and then respond to them. And yeah, I completely agree with that. So yeah, it's for fiction authors. No, I would say it's a great opportunity for you. I mean, honestly, again, almost any niche topic or genre, you can, if you're willing to, find a way to make that work for YouTube. At Author Nation a couple years ago, I remember going there, and one of the big topics was authors putting their audiobooks on YouTube. That's free. You're putting it up there for free. And that's just another piece of content. And you don't have to put all of your stuff up there for free, but that's really interesting. No face. You can just audio record or put the recording up there. That's another way for you to connect to your audience. It's another way for you to add value. And not everyone is going to be able to buy the book or support you financially right off the bat. So letting them get a taste for your work or experience your work and your content, and then again, start building that relationship so that when they maybe are able to, or when you put out that new release, they're able to go and convert and make that purchase. So for fiction authors, I think it can be such a powerful tool for building that fandom and for showing up and like explaining the things that you really maybe couldn't in the book, of like, why was the main character so into cooking, or like, why did they love that Corvette that they had, or like, why did they name their dog Bessie, or, whatever. That's how uncreative I am. That's my dog's name. So sorry, I could come up with nothing better than that. But, but you have that room to expand and even kind of start your own fan fiction based on your own content and your own lore and kind of build that up. So I would encourage anybody who kind of listens and says, this isn't for me, it's not going to work. Well, think about why wouldn't it work? And just as a thought exercise, think about 5 reasons why it could work. And then, maybe you can just kind of start there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there are a lot of really cool ways. Do it an FAQ, or do a couple of lives. Go
writing
live.
Sprints.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. Go live and do a writing sprint. And say, hey, I'm going to do a 1 hour. Just write with me. Like if anyone wants to, or maybe not even writing with me. Maybe it's just a co-working thing. Maybe it's I'm going to go live and I'm going to be writing, but you're working on something else right now. But you're going to join my live, and we're going to be in the same space together working on our respective crafts.
Yes.
You might get a very, very loyal following of people from doing something like that. And that has there's no production involved in that. There's no, like, you literally just have to have like an iPhone or a phone with a decent camera on it and enough of a recording space that you're not embarrassed for the dirty laundry that's behind you in the video screen.
Right.
Like, that's it.
When the laundry dirty pile and the laundry clean pile start merging together into the same pile, and maybe your viewers will watch that and then they can get excited about that. But yeah, I was reading an article about an author, and I don't remember now who it was, but she was talking about trying video content or trying to put content out there, and it just really wasn't hitting. And then one day she started talking about her cat and people loved it. And then she was like, okay. So then it was, again, kind of going back to like the real human aspects of your life and sharing what you're comfortable with sharing. But the writing sprints, LaShonda Brown is a Lulu author, and she does that. I mean, she has these networking or cohorts rather, where she's just like, hey, on maybe, I think it's once a week or a couple times a week, she's like, from 8 to 9, we're working on whatever project. Show up with your work, show up with your book, show up with whatever you have going on. This is the hour that we're working on it. And Russell Nolte, who's also a great resource for authors, if you're not familiar with him, he has said that it's like everybody wants to be a part of something, but not everyone is willing to create the space for it. Mm-hmm. You can be that person. So even just saying, we're going to show up and write today. I mean, the accountability piece in writing, any creative endeavor, is huge. So if you can be the person that helps other people reach their goals, then maybe that's what you show up for.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is all going back to that audience building. This is all going back to that, like we've said a couple of times, YouTube is not really the place that you're going to be immediately selling your book. Primarily, this is more of the long tail.
Yes.
I don't know. This is one of those marketing terms that I pretend that I know that I don't.
Long tail flywheel synergy. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, this is where you're building trust and relationships and whatever it is with fans, so that later down the line, when you have a new product out, whether it's a book or a course or a paid membership subscription or something like that, you've built up that rapport with them that they want to support you. They want to, if they can't afford to buy every single new book that they want to buy, they're going to prioritize the people that they feel a connection with. Mm-hmm. They're going to prioritize supporting you because you've built up this relationship with them.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not an instant buy connection. Maybe you're not going to sell somebody on buying your book in one 60-second short.
Yeah.
But a year from now, they might buy your book.
Yeah.
And that's still worth it.
Yeah. And also, if they watch one of your shorts, then YouTube will see that and they'll serve up another one. Or, I've noticed that with new creators that I see on my homepage, if I watch one video, then another one will come up and then another one will come up. And then you're in their algorithm, and then you're more likely to build that recognition and then, possibly convert down the line.
Yeah. I do think that's the discoverability on YouTube, I think is pretty powerful, like the way that algorithm works. So that is something that's great for you to capitalize on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think.
A lot of ways to connect and get out. And like I said, I mean, yeah, it's the second, most visited website. And so especially it's great if you can do like a how-to or educational video, but we say this all the time at Lulu, but it really kind of all starts with like knowing your audience. And of course, testing these things out will teach you more about them. But if you know them and know what they want from you, then you're obviously in a much better position. You're not kind of starting from scratch. Yeah. You can sort of gauge what they're looking for or what has performed well, maybe for other platforms. And then try that out. There's a lot of ways. And I say this, I feel like every time I talk about any topic in relation to like Lulu stuff, it goes back to your goals for it. Because we've in this short, getting longer episode that we're recording, we just talked about using it for discoverability, using it for brand building, using it just for a creative outlet, using it to connect with other people, to sell your book. So there's a ton of ways that you can interact with it. And so I think just taking the time to say, what do I want to get out of this? And then sort of picking the path that's going to get you there.
Yeah.
It makes the most sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. We did talk about the first episode that Chelsea and I did together was over a year ago. It was episode like 66 or something. But that one was on how to use long form content on YouTube to grow your author brand or build your author brand. I will make sure that one's linked in the show notes.
Yeah.
So if you want to go check that one out, if you haven't, then go for it.
Yes.
Highly recommended. It was one of my more favorite ones that I've done.
Good.
And definitely not just because I did it with somebody other than Matt.
No, not at all. No. Yeah, that one, that's great. And that one, of course, touches, kind of more, I think, encourages you if you are thinking about doing it, to go ahead and do it. Can I make a book recommendation?
Yes, please do.
This is sort of tangential, but I love this book. I probably read it maybe once a year, but The War of Art. I don't know if you've ever read that book by Stephen Pressfield. It's a great book. It's very digestible. It's very short chapters, but it's for any creative endeavor. If you find yourself struggling to show up, it really kind of kicks you in the pants and sort of just kind of nixes all of your excuses, because basically it says, like, if there's something you want to do for whatever reason, sometimes there's that resistance, and it kind of gives you the tools to overcome that. So if you are in the throes of a creative endeavor, there's something inside you that you want to get out, but for whatever reason, when you go to put pen to paper or paintbrush to canvas or face to camera and you cannot do it and you need a little bit of encouragement, that's a great book that kind of, I think is very supportive of that. So just a last little... He's not a Lulu author yet, but it's just a great book. Just if you are kind of figuring out how to get to the next step in your creative career, I would recommend it.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out.
I'll put my affiliate link below.
Perfect. Well, check the show notes for that and for any other resources that we promised we would include in here.
Yes.
And if you are watching this on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Please do.
Please do.
Comment. Leave us a comment.
Yeah.
Let us know. I mean, if there are questions about anything that we talked about, then like I said, I get up in those comments. So I would love to respond to any questions or comments that you have. So leave them below.
Yeah, we love to see it. Whether that's on YouTube or on Spotify.
Yep. You will not be able to get away from us.
No. You're going to be watching us no matter where we are. So you might as well join the video revolution, I guess.
Yeah. You might as well like and subscribe and comment.
Absolutely.
Join the conversation.
Please do. Please do. And if you have any ideas for any other topics that you'd like us to cover, whether that's me and Matt or me and Chelsea, you want to have Chelsea come back again, we'd love to have her back. So if you have any questions for her, let us know.
Yeah, please do.
And thank you so much for joining me today. I kind of sprung this on you last minute and you were like, yeah, let's do it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I hope this was helpful.
I hope so too. And to everyone listening, thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week with another new episode.
Bye, everybody.
Later. Publish and Prosper is brought to you by Lulu.com. To learn more, visit publishprosperpodcast.com. For more episodes like this one, be sure to like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. This may or may not make the final cut of the episode. And if it does, I'll cut out all references to it so no one ever knows about our secret shame. But